Good afternoon and welcome to Family Partners of Morris and Sussex County's weekly Lunch and Learn program. My name is Holly Dinnany and I will be facilitating today's conversation. For those of you who've joined us before, welcome back. If you're with us for the first time today, we're happy to have you. The format for this program is Lunch with an Expert. And given that, we bring in speakers who can present information on topics that are relevant to caring for youth with challenges. So we invite you to, if you have a question, if you have a burning issue that you would like to see talked about today, to drop it in the chat because this conversation is for you. We want to make sure that this meeting answers your questions. And we will be sending out a recording of this presentation following, along with some helpful resources that the presenters will put together for us. And we are just really glad that you're with us. So I'm going to start off by saying today's topic, I'm sure you know because you're here, we're talking about care management organizations and the many wonderful services that are available for no out-of-pocket expense to families. There's a lot of intention. There's a lot of studying that goes into what's helpful to families in certain situations. And today we are lucky enough to have with us two professionals from the Caring Partners of Morris and Sussex County, which most of you know is a care management organization. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we are doing a series of presentations talking about, first of all, the umbrella of organizations. And we looked at Morris County, but we cover Morris and Sussex County, but the umbrella of organizations that work together to do the best that we can to unite forces, share resources, and talk about challenges we're seeing and brainstorm solutions to those challenges. That was our first conversation. Our second conversation last week was on mobile response and stabilization services, on that entity of care, how it works, why it works, what services can be expected, and contact information. And this week, we are talking about care management organizations. That's a very important part of the services as well. And next week, we're going to talk about FSOs, which, Family Partners is one of 15 family support organizations in the state. And we thought it would be helpful for you to understand exactly what it is our family support partners do. As many of you know, they go into homes and they help families, but what exactly do they do when they go in? What is it that's to be expected, and how is it different than what care managers do? So today, we are talking about the care management organizations, and we have with us Maria Augustowicz, who is the Community Resource Manager. She's been with Caring Partners for over 15 years, and she's I always say you're my counterpart over there. She likes to talk, and she likes to tell good stories about the work that her organization does. And also, Maria, which she'll tell us a little bit about, has a big role in our community as far as connecting people, even if it's a service that's beyond what Caring Partners does. Maria probably knows about it and can probably connect folks to who is offering that service. And we also have with us Tracy Stefanelli, who is Stefanelli. Am I butchering it, Tracy?
Sure.
Stefanelli. Okay. Tracy is the care manager supervisor. And so she's really I've asked her to talk real specific about what it is care managers, what their intention is, and kind of what some of the processes are, so that we can understand what their goals are and how it serves families. So I'm going to turn it over to Maria. If you want to start off with, maybe, if you don't mind, tell what does the community resource manager do in a care management organization?
Well, what don't we do?
There you go. That's a great answer. Okay.
I'm kidding. Pretty much the community resource department, like every care management organization has one, and it depends, where you are. But pretty much our role here in Morris and Sussex County is to make connections for our families and our care managers. Care managers have a big role, working with families. So we really do try to assist our care managers to know what the resources are that can help their families, because pretty much their role is to help families, become self-sufficient. And one of the ways is to get them to know their own communities, what's available in their community, what can they access. So pretty much that, a big part of it is like resource gathering and letting everyone know what it is that's available to them. We also have certain providers that specifically provide certain services for our families. So we have to have contracts with them. So that's part, that's another part of my role here, is to make sure that we have the providers that meet our families' needs. So we have enough that, our families have a choice in the providers that are able to choose. And also a big part of it is this outreach. I tell Holly all the time, if you want me to talk for 2 minutes about care management organization, I'll do a little elevator kind of pitch, or if you give me, 20 minutes, an hour, I will talk as long as you want me to. Pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of outreach to the community. We would go to any health wellness fairs out there, just pretty much to get the word out about our system of care. We're not the only ones in the system of care, but it's just important to know that families can access services, throughout the state of New Jersey. I always feel, even though our care management organization has been around for about 15 years, I feel that the system of care is it's like some mysterious entity that a lot of people still don't know a lot about. So my role really is to clarify some of those misconceptions that people may have about the system of care, and really just educate on accessing services. And we also try to connect with schools as well. A lot of our children are spending 8 hours of their day at school. So they are great partnerships. And I know the Family Support Organization is part of our education partnership. And that's a partnership between our local system of care here in Morris County to really build relationships with schools, and for us to pretty much cross-train each other about how each system works, because we're really working with the youth, and we're all trying to do the same thing, which is to help them and their families. So that's been around for there's an argument about this, 11, 12 years. We're not quite sure which one it is, but that initiative has been around for a long time, and we're a big part of it. We help organize with the County of Morris the trainings, and those partnerships have been really valuable to get services for our kids. So that's a little bit. I can go on and on about other things that we do. And we also do events with the Family Support Organization. So we partner a lot with our sister, I always say sister agency, because we do a lot of collaboration. So that's part of it.
When maybe I'm stating the obvious, especially or preaching to the choir, as they say, with folks on this call. But I mean, I just think it's important to remember that the services we're talking about today, folks, everyone's eligible if they meet the criteria through Perform Care. This is not based on income. It's not based on, the challenges that youth face and family face, are non-discriminatory, right? It can happen to anybody. And I think when you were saying, Maria, families don't know about the services that are out there, I think the shame and the fear and the isolation that comes when you're challenged stops us from talking to our neighbor or our friend or maybe even the pediatrician about what's going on. So I think it's even more important that we talk about these challenges and resources that are available for a reason, right? We know we've learned a lot over the years, and that having these supports in place is beneficial to everybody, the families and our communities in general. So thank you for that. Obviously, Maria wears a lot of different hats, but I would encourage you, we will share contact information for Maria following this presentation, but she is a wonderful person that if you're not sure what's happening, she can connect you to that. So thank you, Maria.
You're welcome. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I'm just going to I'm going to share my screen. It's just going to be a couple of slides, but I'm not going to really have them on for the entire day, because I do really like this back and forth. I think it's the best way to, actually learn about our system. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Hopefully you could see it and we don't have any
yeah, we can see it, but I want to maybe too, while you're getting your screen set up, Tracy, do you mind telling us a little bit about what does a care manager supervisor do? I know that, for instance, I'm assuming, I actually shouldn't say I'm assuming, I'm not sure how long you've been with Caring Partners. Can you give us a little bit of background on you? That would be helpful.
Absolutely, Holly, thanks. So I actually joined the Children's System of Care back when we had youth case management. So originally there was a youth case management entity and a care management organization. So starting in 2011, and then joined CMO when we all merged in 2013. And I worked as a care manager for many years and then moved into a supervisor position. So here as a supervisor, my main goal is to support our care managers in order to support their families that they're serving. So, and there's also times I'm out in the field with care managers, which is why I wanted to be here today, to give a little bit more of what that really looks like. What do those visits really look like? What is our process when we're in your home? So that's what I hope I can bring is that viewpoint of the care manager and care manager supervisor when we're really out in the field with our families.
That's great. All right, let's get started.
All right. Well, as you know, we're from Caring Partners of Morris & Sussex. We are the care management organization that serves both Morris and Sussex counties. There are 15 care management organizations in the state of New Jersey. You're thinking, I'm like, why are there 15? Why not 21? Why doesn't each county have one? It really does depend on the population. It was divided by court vicinage. So for example, Tri-County serves 100 Warren and Somerset County. So, but then Bergen County, which has a lot more people, only has one care management organization. So it pretty much follows throughout the state. The same things with mobile as well. So our mobile response also serves Morris and Sussex County. We're located in Mount Arlington, New Jersey. So since we serve both counties, the office was really situated there because we can access Sussex County easily, and then we can access Morris County easily as well. As you could tell, that's a very large area that we're serving. So not to repeat myself, but we are part of the Children's System of Care. We are a county-based nonprofit care management organization, meaning that that's the only service that we provide. We only provide care management services. So that means we're not doing like other things like some other organizations may be doing. And honestly, the most important part to know is we work with youth under the age of 21 who have complex emotional and behavioral health challenges, developmental intellectual disabilities, and substance use needs. And pretty much how we do our work is through the wraparound process. We really help families build on their strengths to develop individualized plans. And that's how we coordinate the services or the resources and the supports. And pretty much our goal is, and I think everybody who is in the system of care, our goal is to really keep youth in their homes, in their schools, and pretty much in their own communities. I just wanted to share this quick, I think this is a good visual as to where we fit in the system of care. I'm sure Holly and other people here have seen a similar type of little graphic, but I do feel it does give you a glimpse of how our system was built. So really, we're under the Department of Children and Families. That's the entity that really runs a lot of like the other state-run divisions. So we are under the Children's System of Care, which is different from DCPMP, which is Child Protection Services, but we do partner with them. We serve, we can be serving the same children, but strictly we are here for youth who are having challenges. We're not child protection. Sometimes people think if you're calling Perform Care, you're also calling, DCPMP, and that's not. Those are two totally different entities. So the Children's System of Care was really just built to help those children and families who are experiencing, emotional and behavioral health challenges. A few years ago, that expanded to also include children who have developmental and intellectual disabilities and children with substance abuse challenges. So then they contract with a company called Perform Care, which is considered the contracted system administrator, which pretty much means that they have the contract to pretty much be the call center for the state of New Jersey. So if a child or family is in need of services, they can call the 877 number. They can access, assistance based on their needs. So that is supposed to be the single point of entry. So if you live in Camden County, you're going to call the 877 number. If you live in Bergen County, you're still calling the same number, but you will be connected to local, local resources. Another system partner is Mobile Response and Stabilization Services. We are not the same entity. They are short-term, and they're really there to be to de-escalate crisis situation. They can be called out within the hour if a family is deemed appropriate for those services. And we are then the care management organization, and we are there to link children and families to the services based on their needs. And we also, we just don't, when we first started, we would only really serve children with those really the highest needs that that had really complex challenges. But now we also do see children that also have like moderate needs as well. So so that really has brought us to serve more children. And of course, the Family Support Organization, there are partners. They provide support, education, and advocacy. And if they are enrolled with us, you will also be linked to a peer support partner. And of course, I'm not going to explain that because that's not what I'm here, but we partner with them on many things, and that's why we collaborate. Now, I'm really going to talk more about accessing services through Perform Care. You know, many families I find when I do these community presentations is, you know, they're given this number and they're saying, just call them, you know, to get help. But many don't know what to do when they're calling that number. Sometimes they don't even know what they're calling for. They're, you know, they'll tell the person that's on the phone, like, oh, the school told me to call you, or my, you know, my counselor told me to call you. So I always say if you are working with a family who is struggling, and you have the time, you can help them make that phone call. A family does have to, you know, initiate the phone call, but they can have people on the phone with them to help them and guide them through the process. You know, when you're calling Perform Care, you know, families I find they're at the point where they don't know where to go. They've tried, you know, many different things. You know, they're concerned about their child's behavior. You know, some reasons why a parent may call Perform Care is maybe all of a sudden they're noticing that their child, you know, their behavior has radically changed, where they were once outgoing, you know, had, you know, friends and were involved in activities. All of a sudden they're seeing something very opposite. They're becoming very isolated. They're not talking to their peers anymore. Maybe they're also having difficulty in school, or maybe they're in a crisis situation where maybe their child is experiencing, you know, signs of a mental health crisis. So when you're calling Perform Care, when you're calling them, they're really there to assess a need. So based on what you tell Perform Care, they will really triage that call. They will let you know, if you're calling them like, you know, I'm in a crisis situation, this is what's happening, you know, depending on what you tell them, they may tell you, I think you need immediate assistance. You know, we can dispatch a mobile crisis worker to go out to your home or wherever you agree to meet with them to de-escalate the crisis. Or they may determine that, you know, maybe you need some community resources local to you. Perform Care has access to a statewide database. So if you live in Morris County, they would, you know, give you a whole bunch of resources that are local to you. Or maybe they need some more information to determine if you need more assistance, such as our service care management services. So they're not going to know that by just having that telephone call. They're going to need more information. So what they will do is they will look through their database and find several providers that they contract with as well to provide a biopsychosocial assessment. Now, this assessment is really an in-home assessment that is really there to help determine the child and family's needs. So the family will get will get a choice of which provider that they may want to choose to go out there into their home. Then once they choose that provider, Perform Care will then provide that information to the provider. The provider has a certain amount of time to reach out to that family to do this biopsychosocial assessment. Now, once this clinician meets with the family, and they complete this assessment, then they have to put this through for approval for Perform Care. Based on the needs that's on that biopsychosocial assessment, they will determine whether or not care management services are the most appropriate, or maybe some other community-based services most appropriate. So if a CMO referral is made, the family will be contacted by a care manager to initiate services. Before Tracy starts her part, because once the care management organization starts services, that's when her the care manager's job really starts. But I just wanted to reiterate some things before she starts her part of the presentation. When you call Perform Care, you are going to be asked if you do have insurance. That's just something that they have to do. Your insurance is not going to be billed for the phone call. It's just certain demographic information that they have to capture. So because at the end of the day, this is publicly funded service. So when they are connected to mobile response, if they're connected to the care management organization, those services are being paid for through public funds such as Medicaid or New Jersey Family Care. But again, you do not have to be low income. Services are available to any family that resides in the state of New Jersey. They are actually available 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you can call them at any time. So, you may think, I'm like, oh, I can call the next day, especially if maybe it's later on. Somebody's going to be there. Also, they have people that also speak different languages. So if you speak Spanish, Mandarin, they will have the ability to communicate with you. Again, when you're making this phone call, it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to call, get resources. You're really telling Perform Care exactly what it is that's going on with your child. And it's not an easy phone call. You're literally telling a stranger over the phone, what may not be what may be your worst day. So, I always encourage families, please let Perform Care know what's currently going on with your child and the reason of your concerns. You can let them know, so the school is concerned. If they are already seeing a counselor, maybe that counselor also has concerns and has recommended that they may need more assistance. So, and I'm trying to think of other things that I made notes of just to kind of remind myself of some other things that I really do try to communicate when I'm doing these presentations. Are there currently any questions from anyone?
I think we're good, Maria. You're doing a good job. And you'll come up, you can interject. Like you said, you and Tracy wanted to be conversational. So maybe if Tracy takes over her part, you guys can feed back and forth a little bit. I think you're doing a great job. It's a lot of great information. And as I said, folks, drop questions or comments in the chat and we'll keep an eye on them.
I do have a question if you don't mind.
Sure. No, please.
Again, I work in a school system and I do a lot of referrals, but twice this year in the recent past, I've been told by parents who are calling that they are not getting someone, they're leaving a message and not getting a call back. And so I'm just curious, is there another number? Is there another way I can refer them on?
That's the only number, but if on the chat you give me your email and phone number, we can talk after this, and then maybe you can let me know a little bit of the situation, because they're available 24/7. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're getting too many calls at several. I can't really explain that. But yeah, please feel free on the chat to email and telephone, and we can talk after.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marie, I wonder if there's a possibility that when everybody went remote, including, the people answering the phone at Perform Care, possibly that was an issue with connecting during the period of COVID where everyone went remote. Because over the years, I've called them hundreds of times for numerous reasons, and there's always someone that answers. So that's my best guess, is if it's within this past year when they weren't in the office, maybe it was the technology.
Yeah, but if I can get more information, we can, maybe there's something that we can figure out what happened. But it's always good to know, because again, we're here local to Morris and Sussex County. Perform Care is statewide, and they're in Hamilton, New Jersey. That's where they're located, but they serve all of New Jersey. So like Tracy said, there could be many different reasons as to why that happened. But if I could get more information from you, we could always give them feedback saying that, we've been informed that at least with 2 families in this area, when they try to reach out for services, they got, they left a message and they received no call back. So even if like their phones were on the fritz because of a pandemic, they should at least have gotten like a call back. So I find that, very unusual because like I said, they're available 24/7, 365. So.
And Marie, we appreciate you voicing concerns and questions like that, because again, system improvements can't be made unless we know there are challenges. And I know we hear families voice frustration and sometimes there's paperwork and there's just different things that are involved, and we sort of understand that's a part of the beast. However, it's our job to help them through that, right? To navigate that system.
Yes,
absolutely. And like I said, up until the past few weeks, I mean, I haven't had a problem. And if it were just the one, then maybe, but
Oh, but this is more recent, Marie. Yeah. This is more recent. Like
more recent. This is
okay. Yeah, definitely give your information to Maria.
We definitely want to know if this is happening, because we don't ever want something like that to prevent a family from accessing services. Because as you know, sometimes like if you're calling somebody and you don't even get a call back, you're kind of like, okay, well, who cares? Like, I'm not going to try them again. This service
that's where we're at.
Help me. Yeah. So this service is supposed to help me and they're not even calling me back. So then you already have a family that's already frustrated, that's already in a crisis situation, and not getting a call back is just even more frustrating, especially when they're seeking the help. So yeah, so if we can, communicate after this,
Sure.
that would be great. So I can find out more information.
Thank you.
So I'd like to go through a little bit about what happens when that referral actually reaches our desk here at CMO. So what a family or a provider can expect when that referral does come through to us. So the day that the youth or family or young adult comes through to us at CMO, what our care managers do is reach out to that caregiver or that young adult if they're actually their own guardian on that first day when Perform Care sends a referral through. That call is really to let the family know that, okay, you have a care manager assigned, and then to go ahead, answer any questions, and really schedule the initial visit. So that's the visit where the care manager comes out to your home, or can meet in the community if there's reasons that that's more helpful. So that call is made, the visit is scheduled, and that visit really should be scheduled within 48 to 72 hours maximum of that referral. So we try to get out to the family's home as quickly as possible. At that initial visit, of course, there's some of, it looks a little different for every family, depending on the reason that that call was made. There are some things a care manager has to go through at that visit, things like consents to participate with care management services, releases of information for anyone working with that child or youth, and a Medicaid screening form, which is really part of what Maria initially spoke to make sure that we have all of the information we need to have Medicaid, a behavioral health Medicaid or a full Medicaid in place for every family. And we start that at that first visit so that when we get to the point of potentially looking at services and connections, we have the insurance piece covered. Another really important part of that first visit is creating a family crisis plan. So the care manager, the youth, the caregiver are involved in assessing for what the current crisis is, what current strategies work and don't work, who helps the youth, who helps the caregiver. And that's done at the first visit because we have an on-call line. So when you're opened up to CMO, you also have the ability to access our on-call line. So after work hours, after 5 p.m., before 9 a.m., and on weekends, the family or the youth could reach out and reach a care manager through that on-call line. That on-call care manager then can pull up that crisis plan that we developed from the first visit. And talk about strategies that worked, that the family knew then. our goal, of course, is to grow those strategies as we work with the family. So sometimes in the beginning, it feels like we don't have anything that's working, and that's why we called you. So we really try to pull up any of the strengths that are already happening with the family with the intention of growing that crisis plan as we work with them. One final exploration that really happens at that first visit is the development of the family vision. And that's vital to the whole process. So that's where we ask caregivers if all of these crises we just spoke about, the reasons you came to CMO ceased to exist, right? If we worked through them, what would be happening for you? What is your hope long-term for your youth, or for our youth, what is your hope long-term for you? And if sometimes our kids will say, I don't feel depressed anymore. So then we try and ask it, if you weren't feeling depressed anymore, what are the things that you would be doing, so that we can really have a picture of how this youth and this family would function in lieu of these crises. So we really know where we're trying to work to as the big picture. So we've established a crisis plan. We've gone through the necessary forms. We've really created a family vision. All of this that gets reassessed and can change as we go. The next step is that the care manager schedules the strength and needs assessment. So that typically happens the following week. So we're about on week 2 at this point that the care manager comes out to complete a strength and needs assessment. And this is an evidence-based tool, sometimes similar to the biopsychosocial that a family may have completed for entry into CMO. And it's really looking at what is going well for the family, what are the strengths here, and what are the areas of need. So their assessment questions, a portion for the youth, depending on the age of the child, sometimes the majority is with the caregiver. If we have a young adult, the majority of the assessment sometimes is really with our young adult. And that tool is used to then guide our third meeting, which typically happens the third week from referral, where the care manager comes out to the home to complete a child family team meeting. And at that meeting, we want any natural supports, formal supports that the family might have and want to be there. So we hope to grow that. At the first meeting, sometimes it's small, sometimes it's the family and the care manager. And you're sitting down, hearing everyone's voice. The family drives that plan, and the youth and the young adult. So the care manager is not sitting down and saying, here's what you need to work on. The care manager is coming and saying, here's the vision we established. Does this still sound good? And then starts to go through the agenda we bring out. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share my screen and just show everyone what an agenda looks like for a child family team meeting. So this is, can you see the agenda? Okay, so this is what the care manager comes out with. And the beginning part here is really some reminders about wraparound. So Maria used that term, wraparound. It's really reminding the family, or you're first sharing in that beginning meeting, that we are strength-based. We're here to complete an individual plan. So every single youth and families plan looks different. Our plans change and grow. Our care managers meet regularly to evaluate the progress of the plan and reassess the plan in a formal way every 60 to 75 days for our formal child family team meetings. So if there's any agenda items that maybe came up from the first few meetings, we would review them here. When we start the actual plan, we review with the family what their vision was. Does it still fit? Then we have a strengths discussion. So what are the things that we identified about the youth in that crisis plan that are strengths? And then what are the areas for the caregivers that are strengths of this family, of grandma, maybe if she's there at the meeting with us, of your care manager, of your family support worker? And they're functional. So how do those strengths help us in this plan for your child? So then we do a review of life domains. So these are all the areas that can impact our youth and families. Everything from systems barriers. So maybe that family that didn't reach anyone at Perform Care, that's a systems barrier to accessing services. Maybe there are, during COVID, social development and fun was certainly a frequent issue, right? Our kids couldn't participate in anything they were used to doing, weren't seeing their friends. Are there any legal concerns we should know about? Emotional, behavioral health needs? This part is where we help the family to really identify priorities. So some families, there may be almost all of these things may be impacting. And for other families, it may be a few that are really, really impacted. Once we've identified that larger life domain that we want to strengthen, we start formulating the needs. So the word need can be interchanged with goal, right? So the need is really the goal that we're going to work towards reaching in this next 60 to 75 days before we reassess this plan. So the care manager's job, it's the family choosing what their need is. They're giving us the words, they're identifying what's really important. And the care manager sometimes is there to make sure that that goal is measurable, that that goal is outcomes driven, achievable. So we want to write it in a way that we know when we follow up if we're working towards meeting that goal. So sometimes we're just refining it so that it's measurable for the team. And then we start filling in with strategies. So that's where sometimes people come to the care management organization and they've been recommended that they should have an IIC, an intensive in-community clinician. And we're saying, okay, before we go to services, which are part of a strategy potentially, we've got to identify the needs so that we know what strategies are appropriate. So once we've identified the need, we can start looking at strategies. And some of those are informal. So some of those strategies are things the family's already doing. One of the most common strategies that I really love, if there's any type of goal around the family relationships, maybe they've gotten really off track, there's a lack of communication. Our strategy might be that the family is going to sit down to dinner together one night a week. That may be what's really realistic for that family. So that's an example of an informal strategy that we might put in place. And then that's the care managers calling you the next week and saying, hey guys, how was that dinner? Did you have that family meal that one time? So it's worded in a way that we know how to follow up on it. And then there may be formal strategies. So when you're connected to the care management organization, I'm just going to unshare so I can see everybody. Whoops. So when you're connected to care management organization, there are certain services that you can access through caring partners. So we do have wraparound services that are those formal time-limited services, in-home counseling, behavioral assistance. There can be mentoring or fitness mentoring. Some of those are what can be strategies if they are appropriate to really meet that need that we've identified. So if that family's plan, we wrap up the plan, the family feels that it's thorough, that it really addresses the most important needs, because that plan will change. And as that youth stabilizes, sometimes we're able to add new needs. So maybe we've stabilized the behavioral health crisis in a few months with the use of therapeutic services, well, then maybe we can actually get back to that social and fun piece. That's actually very important, right? So maybe that then once there's that stabilization, we are refocusing that plan. So after that care manager leaves, that third week since being referred, there's an initial child family team plan developed that includes any of those life domains. The family can expect that the care manager is going to call them weekly to follow up on things. The care manager's job really starts. So they're seeking out those linkage opportunities. They're seeking out the strategies that were talked about in that plan. And from there, the family sees their care manager 2 times a month for just what we call a face-to-face visit. So just checking in on the plan. And I think it's an important distinction that the care manager is overseeing the plan, not the youth or family. So as they're checking in, it's to say, is this plan working for you guys? Okay, we said that the care manager was going to connect to maybe the school guidance counselor. Did the care manager do that in the next 2 weeks, right? So it's really the care manager's job is to hold everybody accountable for what they said they were going to do in that plan. And then the child family team meets again before that 90-day period is up. So every 60 to 75 days to say, and at that follow-up child family team meeting, we have providers with us. So if there was a therapist put in place, for example, that therapist is at that next child family team meeting. If the coach of the youth soccer team was, brought into the process, we have that coach on the next child family team to really reevaluate progress and reevaluate that plan. And as we do that and throughout the process is conversations about transition. So we use the word transition instead of close or discharge in order to think of it as transitioning to the community. So throughout the plan development is the idea of sustainability. So are we helping our caregivers to have the tools that they need to sustain progress with their child? Are we helping our young adults to find the resources in their community that they want to stay connected to when they don't have the care management organization? And that's why we do try to focus on those natural supports once we've really stabilized the crisis. And really, our child family team process is designed in a way with the intention of the caregiver, or as I've had my favorite thing in the world, the young adult actually facilitates their own meeting by the end. So at the end of the time working with your care manager, the hope is the parents like, okay, this process has been great. So guys, sit down, we're going to check in and we're going to see, if everybody's doing what they need to do, or the youth is using that idea and that agenda as a guide is an ongoing tool in their lives when you don't have that care manager involved. So the intention behind all of it is really sustainability of that progress. Does everybody have the tools they need to carry out the progress that's been made? And again, the strength and needs assessment is also redone every time there's a child family team meeting. So that the assessment of those needs and those strengths is done again, and it's actually all graphed. So sometimes our care managers bring that out to a family and show them the visual of the progress that's been made. So maybe on that first time we did this assessment, there was so many needs marked here, right? And now we're 6 months into the process and we have so many strengths. So many of those needs have actually moved to strengths. And so it's really nice to see that progress sometimes because on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to feel that when your family life is chaotic. I think that's something we all relate to. So that's another tool that assesses for progress, assesses for transition readiness. And the big thing is that it's the youth and family's voice that guides this entire process. In that initial visit, my team typically, shares with the family, if you want us to join your team, we're here for you. It's really just us joining your team. And yeah, that's really the process from that first phone call through to really when the family's ready for transition. And then in the interim, the care, sorry, Maria.
No, I just wanted to because part of the process is the natural supports. And I think the care managers do because I've been to a lot of child and family teams, and I do feel that the care managers do have a way that they are able to help the families identify those natural supports. It's like, because what you talked about in the beginning is like a lot of our families do feel very isolated from others. And sometimes it's really hard for them to figure out who those natural supports are. Some of them may not want a family member to know what's going on in their home. But I think when we meet with families and you figure out, who's in that child's life, that care manager is always working on getting those people to the table because they understand how important they are in that family's life. The family, maybe, maybe they're embarrassed, or maybe they're one of those families like, okay, we're just going to keep this with the situation between these four walls. We want no one else to know what's going on. But I do feel that care managers really do work really hard to get those natural supports in for their families, because sometimes in the beginning, when you're looking at the plan, all you see is those formal supports. Like you just see people, counselors, you see school personnel, teachers. And as you see the shift as time goes on, you may see an additional person that's a natural support that's going to stay around after we're gone. So it's really great to see that evolution of maybe the plan being really heavy on those formal supports, and then just see the changes like slowly. It just becomes, maybe 50, and then maybe towards the end, maybe it might be just the care manager that's around that table that's considered the formal support. So I just wanted to point out that, the care managers do really work with the families to get those supports at the table, because we do understand that they are very important to our child and family's life. Sorry, Tracy, you're on a roll.
No, I appreciate that, Maria. That's a great point. Absolutely. I just wanted to open it up if anyone has questions about that process, to be able to just jump in and ask or talk about maybe their experience with that process.
And maybe one of you have been part of the child and family team and you've been a team member.
I think I see a hand from George. I don't know if that means.
Nope.
Anybody hear me?
Oh, we couldn't for a minute there, Holly.
Yeah.
I'm having audio things. I just wanted to, and please, folks, here we go. So we do have a question. I wanted to say something, but first let's get to the question. How often again do you do the CFT meetings, is a question from Carol.
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to say it is every 90 days. So about every 3 months. We say every 60 to 75 days because we meet before that 3-month period, so that we're meeting before any authorization for a service has expired, because we don't want a lapse in services. So the intention is we're coming back out for that follow-up child family team meeting around the 75-day mark, which it's everything for us. The reassessment of our role, as well as any providers we authorize, is done on a 90-day time frame. So we meet before that 90 days, which is typically about the 75th day, to reevaluate that plan.
But also there is an opportunity to have them more frequently, especially if there's a crisis situation going on. Maybe the plan is currently not working because things have changed. Think about the pandemic. We had our plans, we're going forward, and then all of a sudden this pandemic just hit everybody. So, things shifted then. Maybe the needs changed. So there's always room to have them more frequent than that. I typically think they happen when something really happens, like there's a crisis and maybe everybody has to come back to the table and maybe, tweak the plan, or maybe just overhaul the plan. Maybe what we were currently working on is really not working. Because we always say it's not you, it's really the plan. The plan is always there to evolve, so there is an opportunity to have that. So even if like you as a team member have concerns, like you've been noticing there's, a totally different change since the last time you met, you could say, I'm like, Tracy, is there a way maybe we can come together as a child and family team and meet maybe sooner than later because of the concerns? And of course, the family, if they're in agreement, definitely, that can happen. So we have those, those timeframes, but they can happen when needed.
Yeah, and I think another example, sorry, Holly.
No, go ahead, Tracy.
Another example of when that does happen, Maria, to your point, crisis, also sometimes if the care management organization maybe does a linkage to a counselor that's going to come into the home, maybe that person's not the best fit for the youth. So we can always come back together and evaluate any of those linkages that are made too. And maybe if the period of engagement passed and maybe that youth doesn't find the therapist to be a great fit, the care manager's job is to talk with the family about that, and potentially we're looking for a different provider, or there, so there's tons of reasons that meeting happens more frequently. And also you are seeing your care manager 2 times a month for those touch base meetings, those face-to-face visits. So, and weekly phone calls from your care manager.
Tracy, the point I wanted to lift up, and I'm probably stating the obvious, but I just really want to state my appreciation for your attitude and positivity, because I'm not sure that if you even realize that when you talk about helping a family envision what it would look like if things were better, because I think, we talked about isolation. We know when families are challenged, it's very isolating. There's shame sometimes involved. We're embarrassed to tell people what's happening. But I mean, another part of that is that sometimes we're unable to see a better tomorrow. So I really want to underscore the importance of your asking the leading questions that helps them to define what a better tomorrow could look like. Because again, a lot of training involved in what you do, a lot of training involved even in what the family support partners do, and that, it's what that family defines, not what you, Tracy Stefanelli, think is what it should look like. So I just think we can't say that enough, that you're really helping them navigate a difficult time, but also you're delivering hope. I mean, at one point I had someone say that family support partners were just the big deliverers of hope. And I hear your tone and your word choice doing the very same thing, which is we all need to know that there is something better ahead, and that you have a team of people here to help you, not do it for you or do it to you,
Right.
but help you and support you. And again, you said we joined their team. That language is huge, because you're not coming in and taking over. Right. They're tapping you to come in and help them learn how to progress down the field, so to speak. I just think that those things can't be underscored enough, because, I am aware, as I hope many of you on this call are aware, the state of New Jersey has some systems in place that are in place because of years of study and statistics, and this is what works, and this is what we have found, and this is why we do this instead of that. So a lot of things are coming into play to help these families. And I just think that, and the fact that you revisit your goals and your assessments, because I don't know about anybody else on this call, I'm a great list maker, but then sometimes I don't look back at the list again, and I think the point that you were saying, let's establish, let's you rank how you're doing on these things and revisit, but then also, if something's not working, it's not punitive. Am I correct? It's not like, oh, shame on you. It's more like, oh, wow, that didn't work. What does that mean? Maybe we have the wrong goal. Maybe we don't have the right players at the table.
It's about the plan not working for you, not that because you had a relapse in some way. It's not about that. It's about, okay, the plan now needs to be adjusted, right? Absolutely. And maybe the care manager's plan didn't fit what's going on, right? So it's reevaluating that plan and make sure it's working for our youth and families. Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody else on the call is thinking this, but I mean, sometimes these things sound too good to be true, in that, you really are as open as you can be within the confines of your process to figure out what's going on. It's not about blame, not even with the youth, right? Or the parent. Oh, it's your fault you did this, or it's his fault he never does that, whatever it is. It's about assessing what's going on. It's understanding what's going on as well, because there's always something good, right?
Right.
There's always something good. Yep. Nurtured heart, little nurtured heart plug there. There's always something to be positive about. And then it's having someone help you remember to look back at that list. Again, I think that is, I know that the experts you bring to the table are an important part of the equation, but it's an equation, right? It's one part. It's the planning, it's the goal setting. Are there any questions? I mean, you've given us so much to think about, because I think it's misleading. I think sometimes people think, oh, if I call and get services, that there's going to be a SWAT team landing on my house, and that by the end of the week, everything's going to be better. Time is an important part of this equation as well, isn't it? I mean, you kind of can set goals, but then you have to do the work. You have to do the heavy lifting, right?
And we know, Holly, I think the reason we talk so much about being needs driven is because we know if every family just got thrown the same exact services, right, at the time of referral, well, if we haven't identified what we hope that they're even going to work on, what outcome we're looking for, those services aren't going to be outcomes driven. Those services aren't going to help our families get where they're going because we don't know where we want to go. So we really stay away from that service driven idea. And, things have evolved. That sort of was where things were many years ago. And it's needs driven because that's the only way we know how to measure the progress that we're making. And what one family or youth need is very different from what another family or youth might need. So we don't want to just give, just throw the same list of services, right? It's really about developing those needs and goals to then match them with the appropriate strategies.
But another term that you use, Tracy, that I'm sure is indicative of your approach, which is great, is you said when a family has gotten off track with something as simple as maybe having one meal together a week. I mean, again, I love, it's not that, oh, this is a horrible situation we have to fix. It's more of we've gotten off, we need to, read, it's kind of like, navigation, right? Redirecting, like when the GPS says redirecting, it's not, there's no one's wrist is being slapped. It just means what can we shift, even if it's a small shift, one meal a week together is not overwhelming. But I'm sure you will tell me, and also I know statistics will tell us, it makes a big difference. It can make a very big difference because sometimes we forget what is good, right? Sometimes we forget the strengths that are there. Like you said, maybe grandma is a steady force that we just forget to appreciate or lean on maybe, or, whatever it might be, a coach, right? Choir director, neighbor, friend, cousin, whatever. I mean, I just think I really value when we say services, like you said, people think one thing, but to me, a big service that you provide is someone just to help the family take a breath and reassess where they are, like what's going well, what can we build on, and what maybe we need support with. So, I mean, while that might end up being a behavioral therapist, or even I love, like you were saying, a mentor. I mean, goodness, that the power of a mentor, which I don't think people would typically think of, right, as a service, or fitness, right? Working some kind of physical activity into a youth's life can really be a very significant improvement, right?
And just to add to that piece about connecting families to services, like what Tracy said, each family is very different. So we really don't prescribe like services like, oh, this is what you need. So part of that connection is all care management organizations manage a resource website that is local to their community. So I'm going to plug ResourceNet in for this 1 second before we leave. I just wanted to quickly share my screen just to show you what it looks like. So every care management organization runs this site local to themselves. So because we serve Morris and Sussex County, ours is known as Morris Sussex ResourceNet. And pretty much you just type in what it's not Google, but if you put in what you're looking for, like, so for example, outpatient services, you can click on that. It's a little slow, so it might just take a little time. A whole bunch of listings for outpatient services in our area will come up, but it's not just outpatient services. There's different things that we have here on the ResourceNet. So these are all the providers that have clicked off that they provide outpatient services. So this is just something that we do because we do understand how important community is to our families, that connection, especially now, many people are feeling very isolated. They may be looking for support, but they just don't know where to look. So again, this is just something that's very local to us. There's some COVID resources that we've that we've shared with people. And because of everything now going virtual, one of the things that has actually been a positive is since we're virtual, you can access more supports, webinars, things that maybe geography may have been a barrier is not, because now you can actually log into a meeting, a support group that maybe is meeting 2 hours away, but it fits what you need. And like I said, I've gone to a lot of family support organization, virtual meetings and events, and they're great. And I know that you don't care if a family is coming from Camden County. If you can help them, you're there for them. So that's what's really great about it. And all resource nets right now are cross-sharing information. So now you're just not getting information we get, but you're getting information across the state. So, now there's a 2021 virtual teen conference. So you can click on that and it sends you directly to their site or their registration page. So this is just really good information that we really share. So anything that comes to attention, we will put on there. And also what we ask, if you do come across some information as a community member or even as a service provider, you can add your own things in there. This is no cost to you. We really do help try to let our community know what's really going on in their own community, because sometimes it's just not knowing, you don't know where to go for help. And sometimes it's that one linkage that can make a difference in that child and family's life. So where they don't feel so alone and isolated. So, feel free to go on our resource net, go on any page that you would like. Just, we also like feedback. If there's something not on the resource net that you would like on there, we're the ones in charge, so we can do what we want. So that's the great thing about it.
That's great. Well, Maria and Tracy, that was a lot of really great information. We will send out the videotape from this presentation along with any resources that Maria and Tracy want to share. And of course, the Perform Care number and Resource Net link, because things like, for instance, looking for food pantries, diapers, clothing options, that all those things are there, which I know we get asked about frequently. So it's a really, really wonderful resource. And we just thank you for joining us today. And just remember a couple things coming up. Next week, we're talking about the last piece of the puzzle for the children's system of care, the family support organizations. I suspect you might hear a few things that you didn't know about as far as training and process and procedure, and you'll see what we do that's in tandem with the care management organizations and what we do that's different than care manager organizations, because we work very hard not to be duplicating effort. We feel that CMO is there for the youth and family plan. The FSOs are there for the caregivers. Because oftentimes frustration, exhaustion, depression, overwhelmed, whatever might be a part of that equation for that caregiver. So we try to help them be as much on their feet as they can be dealing with the scenario. I also want to remind you that on May 24th, there's going to be a really exciting in the evening, a webinar that talks about, it's bringing together folks from the school system. It's bringing together folks from the healthcare, mental health care field, and it's bringing together parents to talk about what we've been seeing with COVID and what we hope to see when we go back to that thing called in-person world. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but it's when we were all like face-to-face in the same room, but we're trying to share experiences, but we also want to talk about what's happening in a good way to help our youth be ready, but also maybe to identify some things that we think we should be doing that we're not doing, and then to rally together and figure out how to get them done. So that's next Monday, May 24th in the evening. And we have information that we've been sending out about that with the registration link. If you have information or if you're interested and you haven't heard about it, please reach out and we'll make sure that you get that link. And I think that is it for today. Thank you for making Family Partners a part of your day. And Tracy and Maria, thank you so much, not only for your presentation for today, but honestly for bringing the attitude and the belief that better days are possible and that we can get through it together. I really am proud to be a part of the system that you were a part of as well. So everybody stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next week.